Welcome back to Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier. I want to talk today with you about two things. One is a wine that I'm having a glass of right now, the 2021 Diatom Chardonnay from Santa Barbara, California. It's a lovely wine. But I also want to talk to you about ratings inflation. And I think this wine is a very good example of ratings inflation. It's lovely. It's a delicious wine. It's full-bodied. It's not overly oaky. It is very mineral-driven. It has got some nice acidity, bright, kind of ripe apple, pear fruit, some floral elements, a long finish. It's a nice wine. It's a very nice wine. It sells for about $20, and it over-delivers at that price. If you see some, I'd suggest you buy some. It's a delicious wine. It would be great with grilled halibut with a Meyer lemon butter sauce and maybe some capers thrown in there. It'd be really, really delicious Pacific halibut. But here's the thing. This wine got 98 points from the Wine Advocate. 98 points. 98 points. 98 points should be reserved for a wine that changes your life, that you never forget, that stays with you forever, that is one of the best examples of what it is that you've ever tasted. If this is a 98-point wine, how many points do you give Haut-Brion Blanc or Aubert Chardonnay or DRC Montrachet, incredible German Riesling? I mean, there's no rationality to this wine being a 98-point wine, because it's a lovely wine, but it is not a wine that you are never going to forget. It's not a wine that is that memorable. It is not a wine that is magical. It's a lovely, nice wine. Here's the thing. This is what I suspect. So there's one critic named James Suckling who seems to give 95 plus points to everything he tastes. He's well known for that. It's something people talk about in our industry. We talk about among ourselves. But you would like to think that a publication like the Wine Advocate would still have some integrity. But they still call themselves Robert Parker's The Wine Advocate, even though Robert Parker has absolutely no involvement in it anymore. They have a variety of writers writing about things. They make a lot of mistakes. Sometimes one time the picture of the bottle with a review was not the same wine they were reviewing that I stumbled on. They make grammatical errors. They make misspelling errors. They give way too many 100-point ratings. They give way too many 97-point ratings. And it's true of all these publications. The only one that I think, well, there are a couple of critics for the Wine Spectator. Bruce Sanderson you can go by what he says with Wine Spectator. Alan Meadows, who writes about Burgundy and Champagne and other Pinot Noirs almost entirely, you can definitely go by what he says. He's only given 100-point rating in his entire career, and that was for 1945 Romanée-Conti, which definitely deserves a 100-point rating. Antonio Galloni with Venice, he's still relatively restrained in his reviews, but still there are so many 95, 96, 97, 98, 99 point, 100-point wines. A 100-point wine should be a once in a lifetime wine. I remember Joe Heitz in our tasting with him at F. Scott's in, I think, 1990, told us that when he released the 85 Heitz Martha's Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon, that was the first wine, American wine, to get a 100-point rating from Wine Spectator, he opened the door of the winery the next morning, and there were like 500 people standing in line wanting to buy his wine. And he said each person could buy 6 bottles. And then when he had sold half the production, he said, well, he doubled the price and said you can buy 3 bottles. And then when he'd sold another half of what he had left, he doubled the price again and said you could buy 1 bottle. And then finally 5 or 6 o'clock came and he just closed the doors with still a long line of people standing there wanting to buy the wine because it had because a 100-point rating was so extraordinary. Laurence Ferreau with Domaine de Pigalle told us about how when her first vintage of Cuvée de Capo Chardonnay Fupop got a 100-point rating, it changed her and her family's life because a 100-point rating from Robert Parker was such a rare thing. Now, you can do this. You can go on the Wine Advocate website and just look. You can actually just type in 100 points, and it'll give you a list of all the wines. You can put in 2020 and 100 points, and it'll give you a list of all the wines that got 100 points from the 2020 vintage. And it's hundreds of wines. In one vintage, got 100-point rating. That's ridiculous. What I suspect is, in my opinion, that's ridiculous. What I suspect is that if James Suckling gives a wine 98 points, or Wine Advocate gives this wine a 98-point rating, it is more likely that a wine store will use their review in their shelf fillers, because they'd rather put a 98-point rating by this bottle of wine on their shelf, the Diatom Chardonnay 2021, than to put a 95-point rating or a 90-point rating, because it'll help it sell. And that also, if it's James Suckling's review, helps drive subscribers to his website, or Wine Spectator's magazine subscription, or whatever, Venice Media, or Wine Enthusiast, whoever you want to name. That's what I suspect. I can't prove that, but it's really the only explanation that makes sense. So I think it's unfortunate that now you can't really trust ratings so much. You have to, like I bought a case of this wine. Personally, I bought a case of this wine because it was $20 and had a 98-point rating. How can you go wrong? I'm glad to have the case of wine. It's a lovely wine. I'm glad to have it. It's definitely worth $20. But it's not a 98-point wine, and I wouldn't have bought a case if it gotten 92 points. I might have bought 2 or 3 bottles. Yeah. So you have to just take things with a grain of salt, and I think that even if a wine gets 100 points, you ought to buy a bottle and taste it before you commit to a case. That's my opinion. So it's a shame, and I think this is my bloody pulpit where I can try to address things like this. Maybe somebody's listening. Who knows? Maybe someday James Suckling will log on, will listen to my podcast, or whoever the new editor-in-chief at Wine Spectator is will listen to my podcast. Maybe it will have some effect. Who knows? But I think that it's irresponsible to give this wine a 98-point rating. It's irresponsible. And it's not good journalism. And they should change. This is something that should change. So that's my little rant on ratings inflation. Now, having said that, this is a really lovely wine. I'm really enjoying this glass that I'm having it right now. If you stumble across a bottle and it's around $20, I'd suggest you buy it, because it's about as good as $20 California Chardonnay gets. It's not overly oaky. It's not a bombastic, in your face wine. It's very kind of, it almost tastes a little bit more like a Chablis than it does like most California, a really high quality Chablis than it does like most California Chardonnays. Well, that's it. That's all I got. Thanks for tuning in for Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier, and I hope to talk to you again soon.